From the Tennessee Valley Weather Channel, this is a severe weather alert.
All right, it's 9 o'clock. I'm Fred Gossett here along with Chase Wilson in the Tennessee Valley Weather Center. Our live update here is going to take the place of what is usually our pre-recorded, regularly scheduled 9 o'clock weathercast. We're going to focus on the severe storm threat tonight and tomorrow, but we will show the extended forecast at the end of this so you can see the full 7-day forecast as well. First off, we're going to start out with a tornado watch that includes a couple counties in the viewing area. Keep in mind that our viewing area starts at Hardin County, Tennessee, and Tishomingo County, Mississippi as the western border. Those are the two counties under the tornado watch until 3 a.m. It does not include other areas of Middle Tennessee or North Alabama. There's the possibility there may be a tornado watch issued later into the overnight after midnight for these areas. It's questionable. It's going to depend on how the storms behave off to the west. It's a little more certain that the storms will get going off to the west, and they're starting to try to now. The capping lid on the atmosphere may try to hold a little more tonight over North Alabama and middle parts of Tennessee, but it's still an elevated threat because of the potential intensity of a couple of the tornadoes we have. And that's why the tornado watch they've issued out here in West Tennessee and North Mississippi, all of West Tennessee and North Mississippi. So if you're watching me in McNairy County or Decatur County, outside of the viewing area, places like that, you're in the watch too. It's just that our viewing area starts at Hardin and Tishomingo. This is what is called a PDS watch, PDS, that stands for particularly dangerous situation. This is an infrequently issued type of tornado watch. Here in our part of the country, as prone as we are to tornadoes, we usually average only 2 or 3 days a year, even in an active season, where we get PDS tornado watches. And sometimes we go a whole entire year without seeing a single one. That shows you how rare compared to all tornado watches that they are. In the United States, on average, for a year, on the entire United States, on average for a year, 3% of tornado watches are PDS. Now, you may be wondering what that means. The particularly dangerous situation is a special phrase. It's wording in the tornado watch. It's used when there's a heightened threat, an elevated type threat of multiple long track EF2 to EF5 type tornadoes, the strong to violent ones that can get down on the ground, stay down on the ground for dozens of miles and do substantial damage. So even though it's a questionable threat, the potential to have a tornado like that intensity calls for this to be an upper end type tornado watch. And that's why, even though it's even more questionable in Middle Tennessee and North Alabama tonight, the fact that if there is a storm, it could produce that type of tornado, that's why we're still in an elevated threat, even though it's more questionable for the overnight. So that's the deal with the tornado watch that's in place. Once storms get closer within 2 counties of our viewing area, we'll start doing live cut-ins at the top and bottom of every hour. But with storms probably a few to several hours away from our viewing area, and it even being really questionable to hold together, and now that you're aware of the tornado watch, we're here live together. We're not going to blow you up every 30 minutes all night long where we're not even sure the storms will hold together. Once they get within 2 counties distance, we will do live cut-ins at the top and bottom of every hour. We will be here all night long to track this potential first round. You see the atmosphere pretty unstable already, still staying into the 70s at this late hour, low to mid 70s across the area. You see a few of those showers developing back into North Mississippi. We'll have to watch to see if those try to deepen into thunderstorms. So far, that far east in Mississippi hasn't happened. You can see attempts at thunderstorms developing in the Mississippi Delta, and then they've kind of fizzled. That's why there's a big question mark on this first round tonight, and there always was. This is not a new development that's a surprise. It was always a question mark because we had this lid of warm air about 10,000 feet above the ground that's over the warm sector. It's called a cap. It acts like a baseball cap. That's why it's called that. It keeps a lid on the atmosphere from thunderstorms developing. But if the upward motion can push an updraft through that, then you'll get a thunderstorm to explosively intensify. It's a question mark whether the storms will be able to hold together busting through that cap. If they can, a couple of those could be supercells with long track tornadoes late tonight and through the pre-dawn hours, and that's why we have to pay attention tonight. Even though it's not the main event, it still has significant damage potential. And that's why there's that PDS tornado watch in our far western areas and then back to the west into the Mississippi Valley. It's just a question mark. I wish I could give you more certain answers tonight. We've had a couple of people ask about a more definite timeline so they can more comfortably sleep. I get it. And I get that most of the events we have, we can do that for you, because a lot of the events we have, it's this one single solid line of thunderstorms that comes through. It takes 1 to 2 hours to move through our little viewing area, and then it's gone and you don't see any more threat for the rest of the night. This is not that. As you can see, it's these isolated, individual, spotty type cellular storms. And on the radar, they don't look a whole lot because they're not a big old massive line, but it's the individual storms that are more dangerous because they're not competing with their neighbors, so they can take full advantage of the environment. And those are supercells, and those are the type of storms that produce the big long track tornadoes, not the big solid lines. It's the individual storms that are more dangerous, and that's what we have to watch out for. And because it's that type of threat, we can't do anything more finite than give you just an overall window. And unfortunately, that overall window runs, I would say, since they're still this far west and struggling, I know our threat map in a moment is going to say between now and 6 a.m. because we have a tornado watch in the western counties. I think it will probably be closer to 11 or 12 o'clock for a possible start time. So closer to 11 or midnight. But pay attention starting now, because the tornado watch out west, and then on through about daybreak or so for this first round, not the main event coming Saturday afternoon, but this first round. You can see thunderstorms back in Arkansas, Missouri. There are some big, large, violent tornadoes on the ground in Missouri with this first round. We've had a couple that have lofted debris to 22,000 feet or higher as they've come over some communities. So that gives us an idea of what this storm system is capable of. So all eyes on this over the next 24 to 30 hours as it moves through. In addition to this severe weather threat that we're going into great detail about, and the information that we give through the next several minutes will answer questions you have, because the questions, the what about my town, what about my town, what about my town, everybody's at threat, so it doesn't matter what town you live in. But asking about the level of the threat and what we're facing and things like that, the information we'll give you in the next several minutes will answer all that. There is a flood watch also. That's another concern we'll have, because there may be rounds of supercells tomorrow that move over the same areas instead of just one line of thunderstorms. That may add up rain to several inches. So there's a flood watch across the area all the way through 1 a.m. Sunday early morning for all of southern Middle Tennessee, North Alabama, and Northeast Mississippi. Some areas could see as much as 3 to 6 inches of rain with trailing thunderstorms. Now, not everybody's going to see that much, but where the thunderstorms repeatedly move over the same path like train cars on a track, yeah, there could be that much rain falling over those areas and it causes flash flooding. In addition, because of the non-thunderstorm gradient background winds shoving all the warm, humid air up here tonight and tomorrow, just the background winds of 30, 40, 45 mile per hour gusts sustained at 20 plus. There's a wind advisory for all of Middle Tennessee and North Alabama that goes on through 1 a.m. on Sunday morning as well. And that southerly to southeasterly wind will bring the warm, humid, unstable air in here, but it'll be a gusty wind late tonight and going through tomorrow. Now, here's the Futurecast thinking that one of those supercells is going to get going. This shows you the type of threat there could be. Notice there aren't a lot of them, but it took one from a couple hours ago that tried to form. It held it together, and then it carried it with a long track rotation up into Selmer for 10 o'clock. Now, that's not going to happen because that storm didn't hold together, but that's all that is. That's a visual aid of what the overnight is capable of. This is not a, hey, this got this perfect, this is going to happen in an hour type thing. This is an example of what the environment is capable of tonight. And there could be a couple more that try to do that. Even with the stuff that looked like showers, 3, 4 o'clock in northwest Alabama, southern Middle Tennessee, it could be one of those big supercells with an EF2 plus tornado instead. So that's why there's a big question mark on the overnight, but it's still conditionally a damaging type event versus some marginal little low-end spin-up. Now, 7, 8, 9 o'clock, we start to see these little warm frontal rain showers and thunderstorms forming on the northwest edge of the viewing area here based on the latest Futurecast. Notice that south of that, North Alabama, far southern Tennessee, northeast Mississippi, by mid to late morning, It's free except for a stray shower or two, and there are actually some sun breaks here. That warms us into the mid-70s tomorrow. And then once we get past 12, 1, 2 o'clock, we start looking to the west. Now, this run in the Futurecast model is slower, and I'm not quite sure that's correct, but it still ends up having the same end result. These violent long track supercells develop mid-afternoon and get in here from the west, out of North Mississippi into northwest Alabama, southern middle Tennessee. You can see multiple supercells in here and these really intense, violent looking tracks. These are the storms that will be capable of those long track, upper end intensity, violent type tornadoes. And you see that continuing through 6, 7, 8 o'clock. And then you get to 9, 10 o'clock, and the threat does shift from west to east and out of the area. I think by 10 o'clock tomorrow night, even though there's still rain and thunder all the way past midnight, I think by the time we get to 10 o'clock tomorrow night, the tornado threat across our area and the damaging wind and the hail threat will be winding down. And then we'll watch for heavy rain and potential for flooding for a few more hours. So there's still that significant severe weather threat for the overnight between now and 6 a.m. for West Tennessee, North Mississippi, and then an elevated risk for Middle Tennessee and Northwest Alabama. It's still a question mark, like we were talking about, because we're not entirely sure that storms will hold together as supercells to move in. However, they're going to try to bust through that cap. And if one or two are successful, that is all it takes for there to be a long track EF2 plus type intensity tornado coming through southern middle Tennessee, northwest Alabama, or northeast Mississippi somewhere. That's why, even though it's a really questionable, iffy thing, we have to be on alert. It's not a situation where you have to stay up all night, but turn on those wireless emergency alerts on your phone, the system that does the Amber Alerts, and it's really loud. Those do tornado warnings too. That will wake you up out of your sleep. It will wake a zombie up out of the dead. Make sure those are turned on. Make sure your phone is not on sleep mode, not on do not disturb. If you have our app, it does free notifications. If you have a weather radio in your home, that is great. Those will wake you up out of your sleep if you get a warning, so you need to take shelter. But because it's so questionable, it's not something where you just need to stay up worrying all night. Just be aware and be ready to act if a warning is issued. But again, question marks on whether those storms will hold together and be severe. Now, tomorrow is not a question mark. Tomorrow is an exclamation mark. Tomorrow is as close to a surefire thing that you can possibly get the night before. This is the highest confidence type forecast you can have a day before something happens. Now, the purple area we have here is the potential for violent tornadoes. Those are higher than EF3. There is the potential there could be EF4 to EF5 type activity in our viewing area tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow evening. And there's a non-zero threat that there could be more than one tornado of that intensity. It's not a day where you're going to see a swarm of them that intense, but there could be one or two or three that are that strong, in addition to other tornadoes that are of a lesser intensity. This is not that SPC risk that's the level 5 out of 5 high risk you saw on the internet earlier today. What this is that doesn't get updated again until 1 a.m. We've seen data since then that is screaming at us that the unstable area gets all the way into Tennessee, not just North Alabama. So that gives us high confidence that yes, the North Alabama environment, the far southern Tennessee environment, it's the same as what's down there in Tuscaloosa and Birmingham in central Alabama. It will be just as favorable for violent tornadoes. So that I can catch you before you go to bed, instead of waiting until 1 a.m. when the new outlook comes out, I'm drawing this purple area in to get ahead of the game and to tell you what Storm Prediction Center is probably going to do. And they're probably going to expand that high risk north into North Alabama to some varying degree, and it might even be in the far southern middle Tennessee. What this tells you is it doesn't matter if it's a level 3, a level 4, a level 5, a level A, B, C, D, E, F, G, or none of that. It means that there's the potential for violent upper end type tornadoes in this purple area, and still an isolated one that intense up in the red area, and that goes all the way up to Hohenwald and Columbia. and Lewisburg and Chapel Hill. And if the trends we see in the model data this evening continue, we may have to adjust these areas a little farther northward because we're getting more and more confidence that the unstable air reaches deeper up into Middle Tennessee, closer to just south of I-40, instead of staying just near the Alabama state line. So it doesn't matter if you see that you're in a level 3 on a map somewhere, or a level 4 over here, or a Torcon this or whatever. What you need to know is the message we're giving you, that this is a high-end type tornado threat. We see the potential for a tornado outbreak with the potential for a few long track, violent, upper end type tornadoes, and you need to take it seriously and you need to prepare. The overall time frame for that is from noon to 10 p.m. tomorrow. That's the message you need to know, regardless of whether you're in a level 5 outlook, level 4, level 3, A, B, C, it doesn't matter. That's the message. High-end tornado risk tomorrow, tornado outbreak possible. You need to have your plan in place. You need to take it seriously. You need to prepare. In addition, there's a significant flooding risk across all of southern Middle Tennessee, North Alabama, Northeast Mississippi, because as those supercells train, again, not everybody is going to see 3+ inches of rain, but where you see these orange and red streaks, yeah, that's where rain totals get up 3, 4, 5, 6 inches, and there's a widespread 1 to 2. So there is flooding potential across the areas we head through tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow night. So we've already talked about the situation tonight and how, yeah, you need to pay attention, but it's question mark. Tomorrow is not a question mark. Tomorrow is the exclamation point that's screaming at you. Here's the overall summary again. Severe weather outbreak, tornado outbreak possible tomorrow. We don't use those words often. As a matter of fact, in the whole 5 years that Tennessee Valley Weather has existed, this is the first event where I've come on air with you and said, I expect a tornado outbreak tomorrow. Those are words I don't use too often. It's not to scare you. It's not to alarm you. It's not for clickbait. It's not for hype. It's because you trust my forecast opinion. You trust my skills. You trust my experience. And it's my job as the chief meteorologist of this station to give you an honest evaluation of the forecast based on my knowledge, my experience, and the data that we have. And every now and then, we have a severe weather threat where it's upper echelon like this, to where we have to use a stronger wording. And that's simply what it is. You have to call a stripe, and that's exactly what it is. High risk of tornadoes tomorrow. Except for 1 or 2 or 3 days in history, this is about as strong of a risk as you see. Violent, long track tornadoes are possible tomorrow. There may be a couple or few tornadoes in this overall risk area that are greater than EF3 intensity. It's that type of day. In addition, a significant threat of damaging straight line winds of 65 to 80 miles an hour. A few of those supercells may produce golf ball size hail, and that significant threat of flash flooding where the storms train 3, 4, maybe 6+ inches of rain in a few isolated areas that cause significant flash flooding. So you have to have your plan in place. We've been begging you and screaming at the top of our lungs all week to ask you to prepare for this. It's not like we've just thrown this on you at the last minute. This has been in the forecast for 7 days, and we've urged you to prepare the entire 7. So this is not out of left field coming at you at the last minute. You have to have multiple reliable ways of hearing warnings, including something that will wake you out of your sleep overnight. You have to know where your safe place ahead of time is, where you will seek shelter if a warning is issued. That cannot include mobile homes. Tomorrow is going to be the kind of day where they don't spin up random and you have 30 seconds of advance notice. Tomorrow is going to be those big storms that we can track for 30 minutes or 60 minutes away, and we can give you extended lead time to tell you get out of your mobile homes, head to a safe place. You also need helmets or something sturdy and protective for your head and neck, everybody in the home, to protect your head and neck from flying debris. That's how most people get hurt in tornado situations. Overnight forecast for tonight, scattered storms the next couple hours. Threat of that increases toward daybreak, but still it's a question mark on if it's the supercells coming in. But if it is, there could be some strong tornadoes. Again, tomorrow's not a question mark. Tomorrow is an exclamation point instead. Severe storms are likely tomorrow. The threat window for the high-end tornado threat is noon to 10 p.m. And again, this is a high-end tornado outbreak threat with a few violent long track type tornadoes possible. Mid-70s tomorrow, and we're looking like mid-70s could get all the way north of Columbia, Tennessee. Cooler and quiet Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Starting to get back into the lower 70s by Tuesday. Another chance of showers and thunderstorms by Wednesday. Too early to see if those will be a severe threat or not. Let us get past the Saturday system. We will evaluate that more carefully, and then clearing a cooler again for the second half of next week. That's the latest 7-day forecast. We will be here all night to monitor the storms. Should any warnings be issued, we will be here with nonstop coverage to get you through the situation. We'll be here monitoring things overnight. Otherwise, our next forecast update comes with your wake-up weather at 4 a.m.
You're watching the Tennessee Valley Weather Channel.
And that's why